Hello, future people. Welcome to Getting Tabled. I'm Jason the Bruce, and today we're checking out The Terrors of the Air from Bot War. For those of you that are not aware, think back to 80s and early 90s cartoons in front of the TV and you will get the world that is Bot War. It's very loosely inspired by things similar to G.I. Joe, similar to Transformers, Robotech, so on and so forth. It's all in that science fiction-y, but it's in today's world type cartoon vibe. The Terrors of the Air belong to the Deceivers, which, if you haven't been able to tell from their name, are very clearly the heroes of this story. Don't let the Valiants tell you otherwise. The Valiants are horrible, evil people that you should never listen to. All hail Megatyrant. This has been a long-running joke with me and the Bot War community for a long time, mainly because the video, but I want to tell you about the competition that we're running through our Patreon. For every month of support you give our Patreon, from now until April next year, you will receive one entry into the competition that we're running to win a Shaltari fleet for Drop Fleet Commander. That includes a Shaltari Dreadnought, a Shaltari Starter Set, a Shaltari Frigates box, and a Shaltari Cruisers box. All of this will be sent to one winner. This winner will be drawn at random on our 4th anniversary, which is recorded at the beginning of April. For us to be allowed to send this to you, you need to fit 2 categories. You must be living in a country where it's legal for me to post you something from Australia. You also must be living in a country where it is legal to win competitions. If you do not live in a country that meets these criteria, then I do apologise. There's nothing that I'll be able to do, and I will be forced to redraw it. Please consider supporting us. We'd really appreciate it. All of this was purchased with my own money. No Patreon funds were used for this. None of this is sponsored. I purchased this personally. Creator of the game. If you're not familiar with Bot War, honestly, I would very much look into it. It's got quite a few Let's Plays out on the YouTubes at the moment. Bot War itself uploads a few of them. Guerrilla Miniature Games have been uploading a few of them recently as well. There's also some videos on Beasts of War that you can check out. But for the moment, we're going to unbox some, hopefully really glorious looking minis. All right, so here we are. We've got Terrors of the Air in a Deceivers booster box. So there are starter boxes and there are booster boxes. There's also individual characters you can buy. So this is not a faction all in and of itself. You would need to add more to this if you wanted to play it. These are part of a list that can be very powerful, but you would want more than just these guys because they're all kind of doing similar things, if that makes sense. I mean, they're all kind of plain bots. So on the back, we get a little bit of a story about them. So the Dissenters is their collective name. Dangerous enemies, so on and so forth. You're welcome to read this if you would like to. In this box, we get 6 Deceiver Dissenter Warriors and their stat cards. Rest of the box is all nice and pretty, as you would expect. I know I've said this in the past, but the packaging on these, whilst quality-wise is the same, which is good, the artwork being on them makes them for a much nicer thing to look at than all of the boxes just looking the same like they used to. Everything feels much better quality through a couple of smaller decisions. All right, I'm going to start with this. This is something you will find in every single box. Basically, it starts by talking generally about what the game is. It shows you off some of the other models that you can get. You've got your starter set up here as well. And on the other side is a really pretty poster that reminds me, again, very much of the 80s toys cartoons that you used to be able to get. So in this particular case, it looks like it's Valiants and Deceivers, just from what I can see. Not specifically characters from this box, because, like, again, actually, no, because he's from Atlantica. So it looks like there's a few different things in here. But again, this is not specific to the box. This appears in everything. Now, as far as the cards is concerned, this is where, at least for beginners, this is going to get a little bit confusing, because this box comes with more cards than we have characters. Once I explain to you why, it'll make sense. But it's probably worth noting that even I, that's someone that's been playing this game for quite some time and has had conversations with the owner and so forth, even I got confused by this, and I actually had to ask the Brain Trust. So, the idea of this box set is that you build 6 models and you choose the profiles that you want to use in game. There's not specific characters, to the point where you will actually notice that these particular characters basically have the same artwork. Now, I'm just going to say that it is the same artwork. It is completely identical. So, just keep that in mind. What I would recommend would be to go through these and pick the ones that you like the most. Perhaps ask in the Bot War community which ones are their favourites, and then go from there and build them accordingly. Or just remember what colour is supposed to be what. Don't paint them to look the same, for example. Because otherwise you're going to get very confused very quickly. I'm just going to pick a couple in this to go through, just because we'll be here for a while otherwise. So, Terra. Terra always seems to be a popular one, and I'll explain why in a moment. Terra will cost you 18. He's got a strategy rating of 3, a movement of 8. He's got ranged of 3, close combat of 2, and he has shield 3. He has 7 wounds. He has air support as his special ability, uneasy allies, nuclear shells, and resurrection. Nuclear shells is huge. So, nuclear shells. If damaged by a model with this rule, all remaining activations and power boosts on that damaged model that turn cost 1. Nuclear shells. If damaged by a model with this rule, all remaining activations and power boosts on the damaged model that turn costs 1 extra energy cube to perform, which, just for the record, is this 3. That's how many he's generating. If he shoots one of your opponents, it means that anything else that that opponent does is going to be harder for them. It's amazing. I would definitely recommend building up one of these guys. Resurrection. When the model with this rule is destroyed, calculate victory points as normal. However, the model is placed back on the board with a single damage point remaining and its base touching its own table edge. The model may then be activated as normal in its own activation phase. If destroyed again, the model is removed from play, but no victory points are awarded for its second destruction. Uneasy allies. This model can receive energy cubes from the pool. However, must always be allocated their full energy cube allowed in the power-up phase and cannot share. So, he must always have a minimum of 3. He's not allowed to give those 3 away because he's greedy and he wants all of them for himself, essentially. On the other end of the scale here, we have Spite. Spite only costs 7. He has a strategy rating of 5, so we will be going a little bit slower. He still moves 8. He's still got the same range in combat. His shield does go down to 2. He does have less health. He has air support, and he's got loose circuits. So, loose circuit. This model is not quite right in the head. Roll an attack dice at the start of each turn. Whatever number is rolled, add this to the model's strategy rating that turn. If a blank is rolled, take 1 automatic damage point and strategy rating remains as per the stat card. So you can't necessarily really rely on this guy, but it's an option to keep in mind because he may be able to fill a gap for you. Up next, we're looking at Corruptor. He's going to cost you 14. He's got a strategy rating of 3, movement of 8. Everything else remains the same as the first guy. We're back up to 3 shield. Health is 6. He's got air support and combat mace. He's generating 2 energy cubes. Combat Mace. Close attacks from a model with this rule causes the target to roll 1 less shield dice. Definitely very good. If you have the option of taking that, I definitely would. However, while we're here, let's have a look at air support, because this is on all of them. So air support will cost you 2 energy cubes. This is a special movement action, which is calculated as follows. Move X multiplied by 3, where X is the model's movement distance. So normally that would be 8. Times that by 3 means we can move up to 24 inches. The distance, this super ability can be used over terrain or intervening models. It may not end this move on impassable terrain or in base-to-base with an enemy model. So basically what it means is that he goes up to the air, he can move anywhere up to 24 inches and land, but he's not allowed to land on immovable terrain, and he's not allowed to land in base-to-base with somebody. This could really help you out and get you out of trouble, either to support one of your guys, which is obviously what it's meant for, or to get yourself out of trouble if you need this guy on the board and you really can't afford to. However, for the remainder of this turn, this model may only use ranged attacks. That is the downside of this, but this is a very powerful ability and it's very, very useful in game. There are more of these. I have not gone through all of them today, but you can find all of them on the Bot War website, which is linked down below. All right, first things first, let's have a look at the bodies. And we'll move the rest of these parts to the side. So, nice pose here, kind of leaning forward threateningly, which I quite like. Now, so the way that Bot War tends to build their models is you have these holes here, and they are designed so that when you have one of your arms, they have a little nub here, which obviously goes into the hole. You will need super glue for these because these are resin, and it allows for quite a bit of movement, honestly. And it still has something for the model to actually hold on to. It actually works quite well. Not all of their models are red. Not all of their models are black. You tend to get them, generally speaking, in a different color for each faction. You'll also tend to notice over this model, you can still see some of the release agent on it. So you will need to wash these as well. It's actually quite nice because normally it doesn't show up on camera that well. But because this is black, the reflection can actually be seen on the camera. So for those of you that keep on questioning why you have to wash your models, this actually shows you because you can actually see it. Detail is nice and crisp on all of these. I really like these. There is a couple of different Dissenter options. So this is one of them. There's another set where the wings all kind of trail down and you can build them in multiple ways as well. So, slight difference in their design. Obviously, this guy's in his wide-legged pose. You could probably do some damage to the wrong person with that. You'd probably break the model before you'd hurt anybody, though. And then this guy's kind of a mixture between the two, I suppose. You could almost put these guys, probably more so this guy. If you didn't want him leaning forward like that, you could very easily sit him on a rock or something. You'd probably have to add something to the base to achieve it, though, because otherwise he's going to kind of be sitting on his back. I kind of, personally, I like the lean forward. I like the threatening of it. Very, very nice. The thing I'm not sure of, and before we go through the rest of the parts, I'm going to open the second bag that comes in the box, is I don't know if all 6 bodies are different or not. But I was expecting that I received the same thing twice. I don't know if I actually do or not. It would appear that I do. This is what I was expecting. Yeah. Yeah, so you get the same thing twice. So I will only be going through one of these bags. I don't want to give the impression that I'm upset with that. I was very much expecting this. I am trying to make that very, very clear. It just, at pure curiosity, I was just wondering if I was right or not. All right. Now, what do we have to build with? Let's start with the head, shall we? So we've got 3 different head options. So you are going to be limited in that. You're probably going to want to change which heads go with which bodies to help make them differentiate them. The heads, generally speaking, don't tend to show up on camera very well. Yeah, so it doesn't show up terribly well on camera, but there is quite a nice sculpt there if you look at where the reflection is. It's almost like the head is, like if you ignore the horns, it's almost Romanesque in the way that the face is sculpted there, with the way that the brow comes down on the helmet. I do quite like the horns. A little bit of flashing there around the horns. That's nothing unusual. It's really nice, honestly. Head number 2, again, it's not going to show up on camera very well just because it's a black model. That's the reason why I had to roll out the different mouse mat. But if you look carefully where it's reflecting in the light, you can see the detail. It's very nice. Anthony's models are absolutely gorgeous. The back of the head's a little bit more bland. But to be fair, you'd never see the back of the head in the way that that body is designed anyway. Really nice. Almost bird-like, this one, with the way that the nose sticks out there. Again, I know that these heads are not showing on camera very well. These are very, very tiny, just to give you an aspect of how small these are. Another thing you probably could do if you wanted to customize them further is you probably could just slice the horns off if you wanted to. Like, really, they wouldn't be that hard to remove. One of the weapons here. Bit of a staff with an evil-looking face on it. Which, if you didn't like the weapon, ironically, you could probably almost use that as... No, it's a little bit big. I was going to say you could almost use that as a head as well. But it's a little bit big. You got his hand on there, so obviously this belongs to a specific arm. And here is that arm. Nice spiky shoulder bits. Road Warrior-like, for those that are old wrestling fans. Rest of the arm is fairly standard. It's all kind of blocky, as you would expect, because they are robots. And glues in. It does allow you for a little bit of posability. Not as much in the hands because it's smaller. You could also do that, obviously, if you want. I kind of like it up and down, but a little bit of posability there. And then otherwise, you're just going through the rest of the arms, and you're picking the ones that you like together. I quite like these big claw ones. These are really nice and sinister. These ones kind of remind me of the Seekers from Transformers, because you've got these ray guns. Here's your combat mace. Again, nice, blocky, as you would expect. These guys have missiles. That's probably the one that I would be pairing up with this. They kind of look like they belong together. And then we have another ray gun arm. And then, as expected, exactly the same parts in the second bag. So there we go. That's Terror in the Air from Bot War. It's a really nice looking box. These things are going to come up really nicely. If you was to ask me what I'd like to see in future, maybe I'd like to see some new heads and so forth get introduced, or some other options just to help differentiate those characters so that it's less you're building options and then representing them and they do genuinely become different characters. In saying that though, given what they're supposed to be inspired by, it kind of makes sense that they all look the same too. So, this is a box that I really like, don't get me wrong. It's just like, if you were to do something in the future, what would you want to do? You would do something to try and help customize them, give people reason to buy more. That's really the only suggestion that I would have. And there's nothing wrong with the way that this box is already. Check out Bot War. You've made it through to the end of another video. Your next mission is to hit subscribe and comment down below. If you'd like to reach out to the team, consider doing that, gettingtabled@gmail.com. Consider subscribing to our Patreon. For only $2 a month, you get early access to almost every single video that we do. Our most active social media is facebook.com/gettingtabled. It's where you'll find everything first. There's also a Discord. There's an invite on screen right now. If you type that in, it'll give you instant access. If you're on Twitter or Instagram, you can find us at gettingtabled. It's not the most active, but it's something we're trying to use more all the time. Come and check out Jason the Bruce at Twitch. He does both video game and hobby content. And of course, without question,